was, would the administration, as requested by Congress, give them documentation, some evidence today? And significant, Democrats can't ask for the Congress to ask for anything. So it was Republicans who joined in saying, please send us this information because they're sick and tired of answering for the president's tweets.
Yeah.
Has the envelope been delivered?
Not that we know of. I actually asked the Justice Department this morning if they're going to respond. I have not heard back from them on this. The House Intelligence Committee, as of an hour ago or so, still has not heard. We'll see if they actually, they're saying that they will probably, the Intelligence Committee will release as much as they can of this letter if it is declassified today, but there is not much expectation that there's going to be much evidence. There's a lot of skepticism. And even members who had this private briefing, leadership who had private briefing with James Comey last week, came out of that briefing saying that there's no evidence that they have seen at that point after meeting with James Comey, and presumably they talked about it in that classified briefing. So I don't think there's a lot of expectation, but it could be a big embarrassment for the White House after the president said these things and then the White House has defended him.
Right, and the ranking Democrat on House Intelligence, Adam Schiff, has said he wants a public hearing. He wants to go through this. Essentially, if there is no evidence, he wants to humiliate the president. He wants to say to the president, you know, you can't say these things. You're the president of the United States. You cannot accuse your predecessor of a Nixonian or McCarthyism, as Donald Trump did in his tweets before the sun came up last Saturday. One of the interesting things here is there's two choices here. Either it didn't happen and the president was winging it, or he knows about some intelligence court finding where the government did go. A president can't order this, but the Justice Department, the intelligence can go to the court and get a finding for a wiretap. Now, the Director of National Intelligence, who served back in those days, went on television and said he doesn't recall that, and he would know about it, and he doesn't know about it. As you mentioned, we have reporting that the FBI director says this didn't happen and is upset about it, saying it casts aspersions on his agency, that somehow President Obama says, you know, wiretap Donald Trump, and they just snap to it and everything. Listen to this. Kellyanne Conway, the president's senior counselor, was interviewed by the Bergen Record, a profile at her at home, and listen to this exchange.
The allegation that Trump Tower was wiretapped. What can you say about that? Do you know whether Trump Tower was wiretapped?
What I can say is there are many ways to surveil each other now, unfortunately.
Do you believe
there was an article this week that talked about how you can surveil someone through their phones, through their, certainly through their television sets, any number of different ways, and microwaves that turn into cameras, etc. So we know that that is just a fact of modern life.
Yeah, I hope my microwave is not spying on me.
But speak into the mug, please.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, this is the situation that Donald Trump's words have forced his aides into. I mean, these sort of bizarre theories, conspiracy theories about your microwave spying on you, or your TV, or your mug, or whatever it is. John McCain in that statement said that Donald Trump has two choices, either to retract or give evidence. He probably has many more choices, one of which is to say, and he might get a question about this tomorrow when he's got this press conference with Angela Merkel, he could just say, oh, you know, I don't want to talk about this anymore, I'm moving on. I mean, we've seen him do that on any number of occasions when he puts forward any number of conspiracy theories that he's put forward, whether it's birtherism or the 3 million people who voted illegally. So, you know, we've been down this road before. Democrats are going to try to scandalize him. But guess what? They tried that before, and it didn't really work.
You can surveil someone through their phones, certainly through their television sets, any number of different ways, microwaves.
Yeah,
can turn into cameras. Now, Kellyanne Conway, after that, she did some morning show interviews. That's what the Bergen Record. Mike Kelly, the reporter, used the word marked. He's covered the Law and Order beat. Marked means surveillance. And to wiretap, he's covered the cop beat before in his life. She said it was a general question. The question was specifically about Trump Tower being wiretapped. That's the question. Do you know whether Trump Tower was wiretapped? A very direct, specific question. She says it was a general question about surveillance. Listen to this exchange this morning with my colleague Chris Cuomo.
It was about surveillance generally. And the fact that
he didn't ask you about it generally, though. That's just true in the transcript. You may have answered it generally, but you were asked specifically.
Chris, I'm not Inspector Gadget. I don't believe people are using the microwave to spy on the Trump campaign. However, I'm not in the job of having evidence. That's what investigations are for. You
answered it to a specific question about this, and it seemed to be an effective way of putting more doubt on a situation. That's what it came across as. That's why I wanted to talk to you about it.
Maybe to you, and maybe to other people who don't necessarily want Donald Trump to be the president, but to other people, they see it as what it was, talking about news articles and talking about surveillance generally.
I'm going to start on this one. No. No. Donald Trump is the president. He's going to be president for the next 4 years. This is not about people who don't want Donald Trump to be president. This is about the president of the United States before the sun comes up on Saturday morning saying his predecessor had this Nixonian plot to wiretap him, and then Kellyanne Conway, when asked a direct question, talking about the microwave and the television and the phones, and then saying that's not what I meant. This is not about us. I'm sorry. Please.
Yeah. Go ahead. Well, I was going to say the problem in changing the subject, as she did in the interview over the weekend, is that the changing of the subject opens up a new line of questioning, which is, does the White House believe that the president was surveilled using weird new emerging technologies as well as kind of the old classic way?
Or are they just winging it too because
they are winging it.
Because they just can't say, I'm not going to answer this question because they know the boss put them in an odd spot.
Yeah, I do think that the news conference tomorrow with Angela Merkel provides not just a moment where the president may feel that he's on the spot and doesn't want to answer the question, but an opportunity for the White House to deal with this now proactively. It's been more than a week. This has hung out there far too long. It's obviously, there's no evidence that what he said exactly in that tweet is what happened. This is an opportunity for him to seize the bull by the horns, clarify it in a way that he's comfortable clarifying it, and try to put this issue.
And he's got no lifeline from Capitol Hill on this. I mean, it was interesting to see Mitch McConnell. I asked him at a news conference last Tuesday, have you seen any evidence yet? And he turned to the next question, ignoring my question, but then he turned back to me and he said no. And it was a calculated decision to say that because he's frustrated, just as other Republicans are. They don't want to be answering these kind of questions.
Did the same thing.
And Paul Ryan did the same thing. All Republicans have said that because they want to send a message to the president. You can't say things like that.
They got a pretty hard task in front of them, trying to deal with tax reform, trying to deal with health care.
They have a much bigger issue, and this issue, I agree with Nia, that it is just the latest in a string of things that he says and does, that there's no evidence that it's true, and he moves on. But he has a bigger problem right now, which is being able to pass a bill on health care that his party has talked about for the last 8 years doing. If this fails, that is a big deal, and the fracturing of his party is a very big deal. They have been united because of this belief that once in power they can do all the things they've dreamed of doing, and right now they're watching it sort of filter away from them.
But I think it has a bigger impact on his credibility, saying these kind of things and not turning out to be true at all if there is no evidence. Then when he tries to actually sell the American public on something very specific, on a crisis or what have you, he's going to have a lot harder time and a lot higher bar to
a lot harder time though.
But maybe not right now.
Well, it just we've been polarized.
Yeah, that's
since
the thing.
November
With his
2016.
party,
We're just as polarized today.
Yeah. This isn't
you either believe him or you don't.
now.
Nothing he says or does is going to change.
I think you raised, I think, a fundamental question in town as we go forward: is that are we locked in this environment, or Democrats make the case? What if you have to sell a raid on North Korea? What if you have to sell Iran's cheating on the nuclear deal? Some Republicans quietly wonder, to your point, when we're trying to get tax reform, if we're trying to get health care, and we need that one vote, if his credibility deteriorates, does he lose his negotiation? We'll see how that plays out.